The snow was falling harder than ever, blanketing the quiet streets in a soft, cold silence. Inside a small, dimly lit house, a widow sat by the flickering light of a lonely Christmas tree, trying to keep her 2 children warm. The air was heavy with worry and sadness, no presents, no laughter, just the echo of what the holiday used to feel like. Suddenly, a knock at the door shattered the stillness. She opened it to find a man in a dark coat, eyes kind but serious, and a presence that seemed almost larger than life. "Come with me," he said, his voice calm but firm. The children clung to their mother, unsure who this stranger could be. He wasn't just any visitor, he was an ex-Navy SEAL. Someone who had faced danger countless times but never expected to find himself on a quiet suburban street on Christmas night. Something in his gaze told her this wasn't a coincidence. The widow hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity, as the man waited silently, offering hope she hadn't felt in years. What did he know? And why had he come for them on the coldest night of the year? In that moment, nothing felt certain except that everything was about to change. The widow's heart raced as she looked at him, searching for any hint of danger. There was none, only a quiet determination, a sense that he had a purpose beyond himself. She noticed the faint scar along his jaw, the disciplined stance, the way his eyes seemed to take in every detail of the small living room. Her children peeked from behind her, curious but wary. Sensing that this man carried a story of his own, he spoke softly, almost more to himself than to them. "I've been looking for you," he said, glancing at the children. "I couldn't let you spend another Christmas alone." Something about the words was strangely familiar, though she had no idea why. Questions swirled in her mind. Why him? How did he know them? And why now, of all nights? Outside, the wind howled through the trees, rattling the window panes, as if nature itself were urging them to act. The widow felt a flicker of hope, but it was tangled with fear. Could she trust this stranger? And what would happen if she followed him into the unknown on this frozen Christmas night? Before she could answer, he extended a hand toward the door, the invitation impossible to ignore, and the night seemed to hold its breath. The widow hesitated, her hand hovering over his outstretched one. Memories of past hardships crowded her mind, the bills she couldn't pay, the lonely nights after her husband's sudden death, the fear of failing her children. Following the stranger felt reckless, but staying alone felt even worse. Her youngest child tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Mom, who is he?" She forced a smile, hiding her own uncertainty. The ex-Navy SEAL noticed their unease and knelt to meet their eyes. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said. There was something in his tone, a weight that suggested experience far beyond ordinary danger. She realized he wasn't just a rescuer, he carried a mission, one that somehow involved her family. But what could it be? Was it truly chance that brought him here? Or was it something bigger, something they couldn't yet see? As they stepped outside, the cold air bit at their faces, and the snow seemed to swallow the world around them. In the shadows, shapes moved too quickly to recognize, and distant sounds hinted that they were not entirely alone. Fear mixed with curiosity, and every step forward felt like stepping deeper into an unknown story, one that might change their lives forever. The widow glanced at her children, then back at the man who had appeared like an answer to a prayer she didn't know she had been silently hoping for. But even as she held his hand, doubts lingered. Who exactly had they stumbled into, and what dangers awaited beyond the silent, snowy night? They moved cautiously down the snow-covered street, each crunch underfoot echoing like a warning in the quiet night. The widow's heart pounded, her breath visible in the cold air as she clutched her children close. Every shadow seemed to flicker with movement, every distant noise a possible threat. The ex-Navy SEAL led the way, his eyes scanning the surroundings with trained precision, hands brushing near the small weapons he carried, a silent reminder that danger could strike at any moment. "Why are you really here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slowed, looking back at her and her children, weighing the trust he asked of them against the risk that followed. "Soon, you'll understand," he finally said, his tone firm but strangely reassuring. But the words did little to calm the storm of fear and curiosity swirling inside her. Ahead, the street opened into a dimly lit alley, and movement flickered in the shadows. The children clung tighter, sensing the tension, while the widow's mind raced. Was this some kind of test? Were they being followed? A sudden noise, a distant crash, made them all freeze. The man's eyes narrowed, muscles tensing, and he whispered, "Get ready. They're close." In that instant, the night felt alive, pressing in on them, and the unknown threat loomed closer than ever. Everything hung on the edge of a knife, and nothing would be the same after this Christmas night. Before anyone could move, a shadow detached itself from the alley wall, and a figure stepped into the dim light. The widow's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just danger lurking, it was someone who seemed to know the ex-Navy SEAL as well. "I didn't expect to see you here," the man said, voice low but edged with menace. The SEAL's expression hardened, muscles coiling as if ready for a fight. But he didn't raise a hand immediately. The widow felt a chill that had nothing to do with the snow. Who was this stranger, and why did he know the man who had promised to protect them? The children clung to her, sensing the sudden shift, the air thick with tension. Every instinct told her to run, but there was no time. The alley felt smaller, the shadows longer, and the sound of distant sirens or, Was it footsteps? Added to the pressure building around them, the ex-Navy SEAL stepped slightly in front of her, voice low but urgent. "We don't have much time. You need to trust me." But before she could respond, the new figure moved closer, revealing a photo in his hand, one of the widow and her late husband. "I've been looking for them too," he said. Her heart skipped. How could someone else be connected to her family's past? The night had suddenly turned even darker, and the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. What was supposed to be a rescue on Christmas night was now a race against secrets she hadn't even known existed. The tension snapped like a taut wire. The ex-Navy SEAL moved with lightning speed, guiding the widow and her children behind a stack of crates as the stranger advanced, the photo trembling in his hand. Words turned into a standoff, hearts pounding in unison with the cold night air. Then, in a calm but commanding tone, the SEAL revealed the truth. The stranger was not an enemy, but a former colleague who had been tracking the same threat, an old enemy of the SEAL's unit, who had now somehow linked themselves to the widow's family. Realization hit the widow like ice. Her husband's death had never been random, it had been tied to this long-hidden danger. The two men exchanged a look of silent understanding before springing into action. Within minutes, the threat that had been shadowing them was neutralized, the night finally quieting around them. Relief washed over her, but it was tempered with disbelief and awe at the men who had fought for her family's safety without hesitation. As they began walking toward the warmth of a nearby safe house, she felt a hand on her shoulder. The SEAL leaned close and whispered, "There's one more thing you should know." Her breath caught again because, in the trunk of his car, she saw a small box with her late husband's initials. Inside was a letter, revealing a secret he had kept for years, one that hinted that their lives and this Christmas night were part of a story far bigger than she ever imagined. The widow opened the letter with trembling hands, her children leaning close, eyes wide with curiosity. Her husband's words spoke of love, hope, and a secret he had kept to protect them, a small inheritance and instructions to reach out to people he had trusted should anything ever happen to him. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of relief, of closure, and of a future that suddenly seemed possible. The ex-Navy SEAL stood nearby, his calm presence offering comfort without words, while the former colleague quietly packed away evidence of the danger that had threatened them. That Christmas night, what had started as fear and uncertainty transformed into a sense of safety and new beginnings. The children laughed softly, exploring the safe house, while their mother felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She realized that even in the darkest nights, courage, trust, and unexpected kindness could change everything. As the snow continued to fall outside, she looked at the two men who had risked everything for them and whispered a heartfelt thank you. That night, they weren't just strangers, they were protectors, guiding her family toward hope. And though the past had its shadows, the future now held warmth, love, and the promise of many more Christmases together.